Today's tale comes from YouTuber at kbrowning9573, who recently shared with me a bizarre personal encounter which took place in their home state of Utah in the United States in the summer of either 2018 or 19. I'm now going to tell the story in their own words. I'd been wanting to go hiking for a few months, and I'd decided I was going to conquer the peak nearest to a local ghost town, but I'd been putting it off for a while. Finally, one day, I got off work surprisingly early, and I decided today was the day. I let a friend know where I was going, and I was off. I got as close to the mountain as I could before the juniper trees grew over the old road I was using. And so I pulled off the road and started hiking. Going was good, and I was having fun, but it was a little too hot, so I took off my vest and I tied it on top of my pack. I took pictures and had a few breaks, but I made good time. As I neared the peak, I saw it was lined with rocks, big enough to prevent me from making it. It was starting to look like getting to the peak wasn't likely, but once I got to the base of the rocks, I left my backpack and walked along them, looking for a way up. It was pretty tough going. Finally, I found a way I could climb up, so I did. But once I was up, things changed. It just felt weird. I walked to the top of some rocks and took more pictures before walking around the peak more. It was surprisingly large with no obvious highest point. As I was doing this, I began to get a bad feeling like I shouldn't be there. The feeling kept getting stronger as I was up there, so I started down after grabbing my pack. I took a break halfway down and everything felt fine again, so I continued. However, once I was down in the foothills, I started hearing what sounded like someone slamming two branches together. I wondered if it was a woodpecker, but they're uncommon in the area, and it was definitely too loud to be such. I took an audio recording and took off my pack for some reason, and that was when I noticed my vest was gone, the pockets of which held my keys. So I tried retracing my steps in the foothills for about an hour before giving up. I had a spare key in the truck, but I had locked it in there, so I called a friend and they had a family member pick me up at the nearest county road. The next day I also realized that my wallet had been in my vest, so I decided to return and look again. I prayed I'd find it. I scoured the foothills again, but nothing was there, so I started up the mountain again. Fortunately, this was much easier because trees and rocks bottlenecked any passage, so there were only a few possible routes up the mountain. While up there, I saw something out of place further up. Investigating, I found it was my vest, but it had been folded neatly and several feet from where I had traveled the day before. I knew this because I could still see my own tracks, and there was a bottleneck between two boulders that made it illogical for me to walk where my vest was now laying. I didn't think on it for too long. I made sure my keys and wallet were there and left. I'm still not sure what happened. I like to think God answered my prayers, but I think there's another presence on that mountain that makes me not so sure. Either way, I'm not going back anytime soon. Which brings us to the end of Kay's unnerving adventure, while apparently not alone on the mountain that day. What do you make of the story? Was it plain intuition telling them that where they were was too dangerous? Or was there something more ominous making its presence felt? What made the strange banging on the trees? I have heard that the sounds of branches knocking together often accompany Sasquatch sightings, but what kind of Sasquatch would neatly fold and carefully place the missing vest in a place where it would be found? Whatever it was, it does seem likely that someone or something else was on the mountains with Kay on that particular day, and maybe leaving this mystery alone by staying off that mountain is the safest position to take. But what about you? Have you ever taken a walk through the woods and been convinced that something was there with you, watching you and perhaps messing with your senses? Please share your tale with me at tellyourtalehere@gmail.com so I can tell your tale in a future video. And until next time, keep your vest on when you're alone in the forest, or better still, never hike alone.